Congratulations, you have found the Lambcast, the official podcast of the large association of movie blogs, also known as the Lamb. The Lamb is the largest collective of online movie blogs and podcasts with 2,000 members and counting. Every week on the Lambcast, various members of the Lamb community get together to talk about our favorite subject, movies. So bookmark the Lamb and follow us on social media. Be sure to join us each week to hear a lively discussion of films and movie-related talk from our members. Join the flock at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for listening to the Lambcast. I'm your host, Richard Kirkham from Kirkham A Movie A Day. Every once in a while, we like to give the community a chance to talk about things that we might otherwise have skipped. New movies that make a big splash at the box office are always going to be heard from. But what about that independent film that got screened in 3 places? How about a documentary that only played at a film festival that you lucked into? That physical media on your shelf that you dusted off so you can enjoy a legacy film, a classic, or an old friend, they all need some love as well. That's what we're doing this week. It's a What You Been Watching episode, where we ask the guests to talk about something they've seen in the last couple of weeks. I suspect we'll be hearing about some upcoming big releases, some intimate documentaries, and some old favorites, because we have a great selection of guests this week with diverse interests. Aaron Neuwirth from We Live Entertainment and Out Now with Aaron and Abe returns for a second week in a row to talk about movies. We're glad to have you with us, but don't vote for his draft slate. Vote for mine.
Counter argument. My draft slate is amazing. Please vote for it. Give me all those votes. You won't regret it. That's coming from I believe a 2 draft in a row winner, by the way. I believe
which is why I don't think he deserves another third round on
Time
this.
to get
Come on,
the
folks.
turkey. Give me that hat trick. Let's do this.
The Mad Lab Post hasn't been super active lately, but the principal authority there, Nicole Ayers, has been, and she's back with us on the show. Welcome back, Nicole.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. And please vote for my movie of the month if you're listening to this.
There you go.
What's your movie of the month?
Yeah, what is it? It's Belly of the Beast.
Oh, yeah, I'd vote for that.
All right, we're all campaigning here, first thing out of the gate. That's okay. And Jeanette Ward's a longtime Lancaster that I've missed for several months, and now that she's back on the show, I feel all warm and fuzzy. Thanks for joining us, Jeanette.
I'm happy to make everybody feel warm and fuzzy. And hey, guess what? I have nothing to campaign for. So.
All right. Well, the guidelines for this show were simple. Bring a few films you've watched recently and talk about them. I'm looking for 3, but we can make do with 2 or 4 or 5, whatever people have. I'm easy. Jeanette, we're going to start with you. What have you got to talk about? What you been watching?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to start at the bottom of my list of things with something that's going to, if you know me, this is going to be a bit of a shock, but I'm going to recommend one that's a little Oscar-y because the Oscars are on tonight.
Oh, sure.
I watched A Real Pain on Hulu, which Kieran Culkin has kind of been winning a lot of stuff. My guess is he's going to win again the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. This movie was and it's hard to say an Oscar-y, I'm doing air quotes, you can't see them, an Oscar-y movie is enjoyable to watch, but this is certainly watchable about 2 cousins who were, when they were young, very, very tight, haven't seen each other in a while. Their grandmother passes, she leaves them some money to go on a trip to Poland to visit. She survived the concentration camp, so they go to visit, they do one of those tours that visits concentration camps, various Holocaust sites, Jewish neighborhoods, and then they go to visit her house when she was a child that she lived in Poland. It's, hijinks along the way, them kind of reconnecting, learning more about each other as adults, how to reconcile their not really broken relationship, but just one that they're kind of in different places in their lives. And it's Jesse Eisenberg wrote and directed it. It's very just Jesse Eisenberg, like the whole thing feels like him. And it's very interesting if you've seen any of the kind of interviews they've done together, kind of promoting the movie, where he said originally he was going to play the role that Kieran Culkin ended up playing and cast Kieran without having seen him in anything, just because his sister recommended, like, oh yeah, this guy would be good. Brought him in kind of sight unseen. Kieran disrupted Jesse's entire, like, I have scripted this out, I need you to stand in this location so I can frame the shot with the tree here and you here and that, and Kieran would get to set and be like, yeah, I'm not going to do any of that, let's see what happens. And so you can kind of feel that in the movie, and it works really, really well. It was a great watch, it was a tough watch, it was emotional, it was tender, it was funny. The rest of the supporting cast, Jennifer Grey, fantastic. So yeah, I strong recommend from me, which is unusual for an Oscar movie. I try the weekend of the Oscars to, like, here's the 10 Best Picture nominees. I'm going to at least try to fast forward through some of them. And I always end up being like, no, I'm not watching these. And I feel like this year I had the best intentions. Seriously, guys, I was going to try and watch a bunch of these. I'm not going to watch these movies. But this one I enjoyed. There you go.
Well, that's fine. I'm glad that you found one that you could tolerate. I've kind of lost interest in the Oscars. I used to be religious about going and seeing all of the movies. I would always do the AMC Best Picture Showcase where they would run all of the films, but over the last few years they've run into the issue that they won't run movies that weren't offered to them during the year. So there are Netflix films that they don't include in their programming on that.
Wow.
And I just started thinking, well, if I'm going to miss one, why not miss six? And so I've kind of lost my enthusiasm for it a little bit, but I have heard good things about this particular movie. Howard, I think, has talked about it a couple of times, so I'm looking forward to catching up with it. And
honestly, the accessibility too. Like,
yeah.
Some of these movies, and I think you mentioned it like in the intro, some of the smaller independent movies, which tend to be a lot of the award season favorites. In the past, the accessibility wasn't there. Like you said, if it's screening at 2 theaters in one city somewhere, you're not going to have the ability to get to it until much, much, much later. Something like this that's out on Hulu, I have the ability to watch it. It's accessible. I wouldn't have chosen to watch this previously if I had to go out and search for it with some level of, intensity. But here, the accessibility to it, I was like, yeah, I'll give this a shot. And so it really gives me the ability to watch something I wouldn't have.
I'll just note that everything up for Best Picture right now, with one exception, is available on VOD in some capacity. You can rent anything.
Yeah, and some of them you don't have to pay for if you already have the subscription. Some of them are still in the pay behind a paywall, but that's okay. At least you can see them, which is nice.
Yep.
Nicole, do you have something that's off the beaten path, something that's down the mainstream? Where are we going?
I actually have both. And I think I'm gonna do the reverse and start at the top of my list because I want to do it in the order that I saw the movies in. Mm-hmm. I noticed getting ready for the podcast today that my theme, there's kind of a running theme with all 3 of my picks. So I'm going to call it the Boogeyman. There's lots of skeletons in the closet. All 3 films seem to have like a theme of things from people's past lives coming back to haunt them, stories of redemption, and the challenges of starting over or charting a new path. And with that, I'm going to start with a Universal Pictures vehicle titled Love Hurts that I did not intend to see. I only saw it because I was working. I was working an event, and the facility was showing the movie as part of their February Love / Valentine's Day activities. And so we got to see it. And I am glad that I saw it that way because I would not want to pay for the movie. It's an action comedy. It came out in early February this year, directed by a man named Jonathan Uzebo, I think. It's his first film. I hope I'm not butchering his last name. If I am, sorry. But I think this movie sucks. And I feel bad to say that as someone who loves action movies and I like comedies. And so when you blend them together, it should work, even if the story isn't there. But I found myself not caring whether I would be able to finish watching a movie or not, in between, like, working throughout the event. I honestly just wanted it to be over so that my workday can be over and I can go home. It's about a man who's a realtor and he loves his job, but he gets kind of wrapped up with things from his past life when people come back to try to kill him. Apparently, there's a woman named Rose who he left for dead, and he's kind of pulled back into the life he left behind after, she resurfaces with these cryptic, like, messages, and they look like love letters, but they're not. And, at some point, it seems like she's trying to kill him too, even though he's in love with her, and she manipulates him. There are some, I like some of the fight scenes in the movie. I thought that those were kind of entertaining, and there are some funny moments, but, there's a crime lord that's after him. There's, like, stolen money. With all of these elements in the Hitman, like, you would think it would be entertaining, but I didn't care. Well, I didn't care. Like, I wasn't rooting for anybody in the movie. And that's not a good sign. It looks good. But
That's fair.
I was just like, oh.
This movie is on my list, to be fair. I did have it. I liked it, but we all know that my taste isn't great.
No, yeah,
everything
everything
that you're saying is correct.
We like a lot of the same things, especially with the nostalgia in movies. And so maybe it called me, maybe I need to rewatch it.
No, you don't.
Here's what I will say, that you are absolutely correct on a lot of this. And I came out of it thinking, like, man, it was uneven. That's kind of the way I would try to stay positive in that. Yeah, I liked a lot of the action sequences. It was uneven. It felt like a lot of the actors were in different movies. I kind of wanted it. I wanted to watch the movie that Marshawn Lynch was in. I wanted it all to be that level. I wanted that tone throughout, and I think everybody else was either taking it too seriously or not seriously enough. It was all over the place. I love Daniel Wu. I loved Into the Badlands. I was excited to see him on the big screen, especially opposite Ke Huy Quan. I thought that was going to be a great pairing. Looking left and right to make sure no one hears me say this, I don't care for Ariana DeBose. I think she might be a little overrated. I'm so sorry. I really want to be a fan of hers, and I just don't. When I see her in stuff, it seems like she's always kind of missing the mark. Maybe I just haven't seen her in something in which is catered to her and she can really nail. But yeah, it felt all over the place, and I wanted to love it, and I ended up just liking it. But yeah, I agree on just about everything you said. I will say that 83-minute runtime, spectacular. Can we all answer that? That's where we should be. Stop giving me 2.5-hour stuff when you could be giving me 83-minute movies. Also, it's set in Milwaukee. Not shot in Milwaukee. Set in Milwaukee, which, of course, as we know, the most romantic city on the world. But I know that because I live here.
Just to add, I think this movie's garbage. Everything Nicole has been saying, and even that Jeanette's been agreeing with, and you mentioned the 83-minute runtime. I mean, it felt like 4 hours, but it's 83 minutes because there's clearly some longer version of this movie that's probably even more insufferable, where they cut everything they could down and added so much narration because it's just a mess of a film that is almost incomprehensible. I like Ke Huy Quan, but boy, this is between him and Ariana.
He deserved better.
He deserved better, but between him and Ariana DeBose, it's like it really runs into that post-Oscar win. We're making choices that seem good on paper, but just everything involved as far as the filmmaking's concerned is a mistake. So like it's hard. Like I like Ariana DeBose, but like the choices that probably seem good when she signs up for things have just not worked out in her favor, because I don't think she's untalented, but it comes down to how she's being directed or what they're choosing to do with the movie, which is rarely the actor's fault. It's the movie around them.
Oh, thank you, guys. I thought it was me. I have not been impressed with her since West Side Story, which I thought she was great in, but I think I've seen 3 or 4 movies that she's been in since then, and none of them have impressed me at all. And I thought, well, why is she being cast in these roles? Because there's something missing. Maybe she's not being directed well. That's probably a big part of it.
They're high-profile movies that are bad.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, too. They're bad movies. And
it's not like anybody else that shines in these movies. It's not like Ke Huy Quan comes out any better. Like
No, he doesn't. Although he gets a chance to do some martial arts stuff, which helps because the less talking there is, the better this movie is.
Even the action, I think, is
Oh yeah,
fine.
it's not great.
Fine.
not great.
Like Nicole said, like on paper, this should have been really fun, really entertaining, and a joy for everybody involved. And it felt a little joyless. Honestly, the beginning part where he was, enjoying his life as a realtor was more fun than most of the. Also the other property brother. Forgive me, I don't know which property brother it was, but whichever one. Like the movie he was in, the movie Marshawn Lynch was in, that movie. That's what I wanted.
And Sean Astin was the one character I gave a damn about, and that just ends.
Yes.
Oh. Well, Aaron, have you got something that's going to unify us all the same way, or have you got something that none of us have seen? What have you got first on your list?
If you go to my letterbox, you'll see the most random diary possible because I have all kinds of things on my list. But Richard, I found a way to game your little system here because I did watch the 2025 Oscar-nominated animated short films. So I have 5 movies to talk about. this first
That's a good twist. I like that.
I watched the animated shorts that are up for Oscar. And then, Nicole, I believe you're a shorts fan, so this should interest you. Overall, I like the shorts. Sometimes the batches that they have here are either like too depressing or too whatever, and I don't care. I like the animated shorts for the most part. More penises than I expected in 2 of them.
In 2 of them.
It's funny actually because I watched this batch in theaters. I have the links to watch it, but I had time, so I was like, I can go see the animated shorts on the big screen. And you see the first 3. And like, cool, all right. And then the last 2, there's like a warning that comes up on screen beforehand. It's like the following contains more adult material that might be suitable for children. And I'm like, oh, so that means it's going to be like full frontal nudity. And I was right. And it's very European. It's just like casual full frontal male nudity in the background, but they're stop animation shorts. So it's like, oh, someone worked on this. That's fun to think about.
Using their little fingers to move things around. Yes, I gotcha.
Someone had to animate their penis and then go to their boss and be like, how do you feel the penis looks in this shot? And they had to then make corrections.
Yeah.
Don't leave your fingerprints on the penis.
But as far as what the shorts are exactly, I'll try to remember the order of these. The first one's called Magic Candies. It's about a kid who gets these 5 candy treats, and each time he puts one in his mouth, it brings something to life that's in like the world he's around. Like the couch comes to life and talks about like what it's like being a couch or whatnot. And so you get these little like the little stories within this story. It's stop animation. It's very well designed and everything. And it's just a nice little story about this kid like kind of seeing things come to life and like and give him more context for the world around him. It's very fun. The second one's called In the Shadow of the Cypress. It's a hand animation film. It's about this captain, like a Middle Eastern Iranian captain who's suffering like PTSD, and he and his daughter discover a beached whale outside of his home, and it's a mix of him dealing with like his own demons and them trying to figure out how do we get this giant whale back into the water. It's beautifully animated. This is the one I'm rooting for to win the Oscar. It's very, very affecting. The next one's called Yuck. It's a French film. It's about kids that are observing adults kissing and they think it's gross, but then like 2 of the kids are like, what if we kissed? And then like things happen from there. It's a nice little coming of age story. And then we get to the adult films, so to speak. The next one's called Wander to Wonder, which is the most bizarre one possible. It's this world where like, the borrowers, like little people, those kind of like really little people.
Right.
You know what I'm referring to? Let's say the borrowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a world where there's a man who hosts like a old school like kids program where he's like, I'm the host and here are my friends, and his friends are like 3 little borrowers type characters. But in this movie, in this scenario, we see clips of that show, and then it flashes to the present where the old man has died and he's just on the floor, and it's just these little humans that are stuck in the house now, and they're like, they're trying to figure out how do we get out of this room because the old man's dead and we don't know what to do. It's stop animation. It's very adult and it's very bizarre. But it certainly had my attention. I'll just throw that out there. That's a Belgian film, I believe. And the last one is called Beautiful Men. It's about these 3 balding brothers who go to Istanbul to get a hair transplant. and it's about them dealing with their insecurities of being bald and being these siblings that squabble and whatnot. And I think it's a Dutch film, if I'm not mistaken. And it's very like it's a stop animated movie, but it's very much like you could watch this as a live action movie and like get it, like what it's doing. It very much transcends the kind of genre as far as the story it's telling. But it's effective. It's a little long, and once again, it's very kind of European in its presentation of things, but it's, it works for what it is. So yeah, I watched all the shorts. I think they're all good in different ways. I am a big fan of In the Shadow of the Cypress of the five of them.
And the second to last one is called Wander to Wander?
Wander to Wonder.
Oh, to Wonder. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I get it right because I don't want to screw it up, and I'm working on the posts. I'm sure it would figure it. The algorithm won't let me screw it up too much.
There you go.
Well, as you probably all know, I like seeing movies in the theater, and I'm always happy to see a movie that I liked 20 years ago in a theater, and that's what I did this last week. I went to the theater and went to a watch party. Now, those of you not familiar with Alamo draft houses may not be aware that sometimes their screenings are specialized. They're famous for telling people not to make any noise in the theater, that they'll kick you out without a refund if you were using your phone, which is all a good reason to go there because they are serious about the movies. But at a watch party, it's a little bit different. At a watch party, they're encouraging people to interact with the movie, to occasionally sing along, to shout out lines at the screen, to make comments here and there. And the watch party I went to was for Phantom of the Opera from 2004, which is the Joel Schumacher film that's based on the Andrew Lloyd Webber stage play. And the film is fine. It did a good job kind of adapting the stage play to the cinema. And
generous.
Well, we'll talk about it.
Wait, is that the Jerry Butler one?
Yeah, Gerard Butler. Yeah. But the theater was packed. It was full. Apparently, it's not just a cult of theater geeks there, but film geeks as well.
And people that had nothing to do that night.
Yeah, well, it was a Wednesday night, so maybe they all had nothing to do, but we all were not doing it together, and most of them knew all the lyrics to the songs.
Oh, so, sure. It's a famous
yeah,
people.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun, and I know that Gerard Butler gets a little criticism for it because he's not really a singer, and you're right, he's not really a singer, but I thought he did a credible job on it. The Emmy Rossum, she is just gorgeous in this movie. She's just beautiful, and she has a wonderful voice. Patrick Wilson, he sang fine. He has the thankless role of Raoul, which is thankless on stage and thankless on screen.
But he has a terrific voice. That's what Patrick Wilson has to offer.
He sounded
especially
great.
Especially compared to Gerard Butler.
Yeah, comparatively, yes. But what was interesting to me especially was, Joel Schumacher got mocked and ridiculed justly for the things that he did to the Batman films. They all work in this movie, that kind of stuff. The costuming, the weird angles, the flourishes of fire and flame that pop up here and there. It all makes it feel very theatrical. Now, there's obviously a difference between seeing a musical on film and one in the theater. The theatrical experience when you go to a stage play is very different. It's one of the things that's hard to replicate, and they don't really try to replicate it here so much as they simulate a lot of things that are going on. But there's also a film element to it as well, and I like the way they adapted the film or the play to the film. They do change the structure around a little bit, and they add a sequence to give it a little bit of an action feel. Those of you who like 83-minute movies aren't going to care much for this one because it's 2.5 hours. But I was enjoying my 2.5 hours, and everybody around me was enjoying it as well. So that's what I was talking about first.
I love the idea of the watch party, right? Because that's what makes the theater experience special, is watching something in a crowded theater and everyone reacting together. A terrible movie can feel really, really great when you watch it with a good crowd.
when we go in at the door, we have a hostess who she's distributing. We all got wristbands, and you either got an Angel of Music or the Phantom of the Night, wristband. There was a black one and a white one. We got a mask, the Phantom half mask. We got a rose with a black ribbon on it, and there was something else. It's slipping my mind at the moment, but candles, little lighted votives to have on, and people would pick them up, of course, at the appropriate moment and wave them in the air when the Phantom is taking Christine down into the chambers below the opera house. It was fun. It's a lot of fun, and
That's awesome.
I'm all up for these kinds of things.
To the film's credit, I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters in 2004, but between that and Oliver Stone's Alexander, those are my two most disappointing films I saw that year, which didn't help. I will say the Schumacher of it all, it certainly works when the Phantom stuff is happening. It's just the other 2 hours of the movie that I found to be insufferable. So.
When a movie's really good, I could probably watch up to 4 hours, depending on the movie. I mean, look at like Lord of the Rings is something that years ago, I used to watch it every single day, just replay the DVDs. But I want to get to a draft house. That watch party sounds really, really fun. I still have yet to visit one, and I'm worried that the quality of the chain will go down since Sony bought it. But it sounds like the draft house has still been kind of sticking to their culture, and I really want to get to one.
Yeah, we did an Evil Dead 2 watch party last year, and they also have like a brunch thing that they do usually on Sundays, and they have a special menu for that, and we did Pride and Prejudice a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
Doing that.
Ooh.
And people dressed up for it. They didn't have any props that they were distributing, but they did have a kind of a tea, and like I said, people get into it. So it's nice to have that option available. Well, Jeanette,
Those sound great.
Yeah, no, it's all fun. It's all fun.
I love that idea.
Jeanette, we're back around to you. What's the second thing that you were watching recently?
Well, it was Love Hurts. Let me skip over that and go to my next one. I have on this list, the next two are kind of in the same vein, very similar movies that I stumbled across. My brother recommended. Again, the accessibility of streaming. I watched Elevation on Max, former HBO. It's Anthony Mackie and Marina Baccarin, and it's set 3 years after an invasion, and from what you gather, it's done with one of those, like, the news reports are telling you what happened. Some sort of incident happened, and then big bugs pop out of the ground, and they're basically indestructible, and they start wiping out humanity up until 8,000 feet. If you get higher than 8,000 feet, they simply stop and will not follow you past that. So what's left of humanity is living above 8,000 feet. And so Anthony Mackie is living in one of these mountaintop communities with his young son. He's lost his wife in a previous incident, which we learn about through context clues. But his son is sick, asthma or some sort of respiratory something or other, and he needs filters on a machine to keep him going. And they're kind of running out of filters, and so they're outside Boulder, Colorado, and so Mackie is like, well, I'm gonna have to go down into Boulder and get some more of these filters. And Marina Baccarin is this lady in town who's kind of was a former doctor, chemist, physicist, not entirely sure, but Mackie lost his wife because she went on a run with Marina Baccarin's character to go get something from the town, which Marina's character believed if she coated bullets with, they could penetrate the hide of these things that are chasing them. And so he's blaming her for the loss of his wife, and she's gone crazy because she blames herself for losing everyone on that mission because she made it back. So it's kind of a creature feature. It's another one where I wish they had leaned a little bit heavier into the monster moviness of it, the silliness of it. Again, they're taking it a little too seriously, but the themes involved in, like, dead wife and sick son are nothing to giggle about. So I guess they're doing what they can with the material they have. I like a good creature feature. I think I had wished this one went a little bit further than it did, but still the premise was entertaining. And again, hour and a half. It's 91 minutes. So for a quick streamer on HBO while you're doing something else, great. Very entertaining. The creature design was good. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but there's...
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Nope.
I've seen
The flip at the end where the...
No, I haven't seen it.
Kind of interesting. It's so... It opens some doors and answers some questions and then asks some questions where you're like, well, I wonder what could come next from this. So I appreciated it.
Jeanette, have you seen Arcadian?
No. Should I add that to my list?
Yeah, of the two Quiet Place knockoffs that I saw last year, Elevation and Arcadian. Arcadian rules.
Okay.
If you want great creature design, that's the movie to watch. I think Elevation's fine. I agree with you. I think it does the job. Arcadian, which has Nick Cage among others,
Well, there you go.
It has I mean this with no hyperbole. One of the craziest creature designs I've seen in a movie, and I've seen a lot of creatures in my time.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. So that's what I really like a lot.
I will definitely add that again. What Elevation did is made me go back and Starship Troopers, rewatch Starship Troopers. Which, by the way, if you haven't rewatched Starship Troopers in a while, every time you watch it, there's some layers there with some of the socio-political stuff where you're just like, oh. So I always enjoy Starship Troopers, but the kind of bug design really kind of brought that back. So if you haven't rewatched Starship Troopers in a while, I might add that to my recommendation list. And I still will never forget Starship Troopers. Oscar-nominated Starship Troopers lost the visual effects Oscar to Titanic, and I will never forgive Titanic for that.
I mean, it has great special effects.
Yes, but it's a sinking of a boat. Man, come on. They had to design an entire
A planet
bug
full of
thing.
bugs, yeah. And spacecrafts crashing into each other in
They
space.
tore Michael Ironside in half. Come on.
That's it. We got lots of viscera.
Give it a
disgusting
makeup design. It could have won that.
All right. Well, I think we're done arguing about 25-year-old special effect awards.
I couldn't go longer if you wanted, but
I did like the idea that we have a couple of Quiet Place clones out there that I can look into, and when you said it's something you can watch without having to worry about paying too much attention to it, That's good, because I think my daughter's going to be working on her Legos this afternoon. I'm going to be playing with the dog. I'll put the movie on in the background. That sounds good.
Perfect.
Elevation and Arcadian apparently is also worth the effort, so I'm going to do that too.
There you
Nicole, what's up?
Whew. That's a good question, Richard. I have no idea what's up. My next pick is a mainstream movie that I did not pick. And I went to see Captain America: Brave New World in a dine-in theater. A friend of mine chose this movie, and going in, I was here for the fun and food, and I stayed for the merch. So that should kind of explain how I felt about Captain America. I don't agree with all of the casting choices here, except for Harrison Ford. I did like him in his role. However, unlike one of the other movies I watched lately that I mentioned, Love Hurts, I did still care about how Captain America: Brave New World was going to end. And I also still cared about what happened to the characters, even if this wasn't one of my favorite movies in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I haven't heard a lot of love for this one.
That's all I have to say
you
about
haven't
it.
talked to me yet. I loved it. It's on the top of my list. I saw it 3 times, so I'm going to go see it again.
I would watch it. I would watch Captain America: Brave New World again, just to kind of have it on while I'm cleaning or something, before I watch the Love Hurts, before I would want to watch Love Hurts. Watching Love hurt. It hurts to watch Love Hurts.
So you're saying you didn't choose to watch Captain America: Brave New
No,
World?
I did not. I did not.
Do you not enjoy Marvel movies in general, or like it's just this one specifically just didn't appeal to you, or what was?
I do. So we were going in, and I thought we were going to pick when we got there, but they already picked, like they bought the tickets. So I was just like, oh, okay, well this is what we're watching. So
you thought you were going to pick when you got there? You're one of those people who stands in front of the box office and stares at the screen and says, well, what shall we see?
All right, to be fair, I didn't even know we were going to the movies. I just thought we were going out to eat. It was just like, oh, wow, what are you doing later?
You're a blindfold short of being kidnapped here.
I like the story more than watching Captain America right now. I'm not with Jeanette as far as loved it. I thought it was aggressively fine as far as Marvel movies go.
I can agree with that. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a bad movie. It was just something that, like, if I was scrolling Netflix, I would pick it if I wanted to watch something, but I wasn't itching to go see it in a theater.
Fair enough.
Well, Aaron, are we talking about something that you were itching to see in a theater or something else?
We're going a little older with my next pick. I guessed it on Todd Leibow's podcast, Forgotten Films, this past week to talk about the Legend of Black Charlie. That's not always the title of that movie.
That's not the title. Oh, yes.
It's how it is now.
Yeah.
And that stars Fred Williamson. And I'm not going to talk about that, but you can listen to the episode of Forgotten Films to listen to hear about that episode. But I did watch another Fred Williamson blaxploitation film because it still was Black History Month, and I'm like, I want to watch some more blaxploitation before we get to the end. And so I watched Black Caesar, aka Godfather of Harlem in the UK, which stars Fred Williamson. It's directed by Larry Cohen, directed, produced, and written by Larry Cohen, for a matter of fact. Also features Gloria Hendry and Julius Harris. The film, it's as it sounds, it's blaxploitation version of Godfather. It's about this guy, Tommy Gibbs. He's raised in Harlem, becomes a mob boss. He clashes with other mafia people and dirty cops or whatnot. It's a pretty straightforward blaxploitation film as far as what it's doing. It's very much in the kind of urban crime drama realm of blaxploitation as opposed to like a black western or a black horror movie or what have you. But it's got a lot of style to it. Something I love about blaxploitation films in general is the music, and this one does not come up short because it has music by James Brown. He did the score and the music for the movie, and I'm like, yes, give me all of this, please. It's a great movie to listen to, that is for sure. Fred Williamson, who he was a football player, he became an actor in Black Charlie. He's a little more limited because it's like his first big role. Like he's in MASH, but that's his first starring role. This movie has more to do as an actor, and I do think he has good screen presence. I say that like he's not many decades older than me and hasn't been acting, but I do think at that time he had a lot of screen presence, and I think the more kind of work they give him to do as an actor in this film by comparison pays off because I think he holds his own here. He's no, I don't know, Richard Roundtree, but he's still a good actor as far as what's required of him for this film. It has the kind of action and drama that you'd want from a crime drama like this, that's specifically dealing with things in Harlem. It has some fun side characters. It takes some turns towards the end that I was appreciative of as far as the arc of these kinds of characters. It doesn't set things up for the best of results, so to speak. But it's an effective film. I think it does. Do I wear it as far as the tier I would put it on for blaxploitation films? I wouldn't say it's quite A tier, but it's a solid movie nonetheless. And again, it has a score by James Brown, which is awesome. So
score should bring people to a movie. That's okay with me. We're going to be talking about later on actors that bring you to a movie. I can understand completely how a composer could do the same thing if it's the right composer and you're interested in that particular music. I think that's an interesting way of choosing films. I can't remember if I saw this film or not. I saw all kinds of stuff back in this is my era, and I saw all kinds of those movies, and I don't have a distinct memory of it. I know the other film, and I'd actually mentioned it 2 weeks ago on the Lambcast where we were talking about Kind Hearts and Coronets, and something came up in the discussion.
How would that connect?
I'm trying to remember. There was because because they use the eeny meeny miny mo
Ah,
thing in that movie, and I talked about that word, and I said when I was in school there was a theater right behind the PE fields at my school, and the marquee was up there, and there it was
hmm
on the marquee, and I thought that's pretty wild, that. And I remember seeing that movie, and I thought, oh my gosh, here we are years later, and I was shocked when they had the word in the 1949 English film, and I'm going, Jiminy Crickets, that's showing up here. But like I said,
it's
I
a
saw a
certainly
ton of these things in
mhm,
those days.
certainly provocative,
Yeah,
title wise.
yeah.
And yeah, we Todd and I talk about that on that episode. So we'll
Well,
have to.
I'm looking forward to catching up with that episode. Excellent. And you know what? If I didn't see Black Caesar, I'm going to now on your recommendation because James Brown is worth listening to wherever
Yeah,
you
for
find
sure.
it. All right. Well, I'm going back again to something familiar. I think I will have less controversy about the quality of this particular selection than I did on Phantom of the Opera. Holy criminy, I got dinged on that one. But that's okay. In my mind, this was the best movie of 2016. I started off believing that La La Land was, but the more I saw this movie, the more I was convinced that this was the best picture of 2016, and it was another Alamo Drafthouse screening. I went to see Hell or High Water with
Yeah,
Jeff Bridges and Chris Pine, and that movie is freaking awesome. Uh, it's a tight story. It's an interesting concept. It's got some sociological value to it, and the actors are amazing. Chris Pine is very, very good. Jeff Bridges is phenomenal as he usually is, and they get a couple of scenes. Well, they get one scene together at the end of the film. It's like high noon without the shootout, but we know the shootout's coming. We're never going to see that movie because the movie doesn't quite give us that, but we know what's on the horizon there because of the way the script is. But the person who steals the whole movie is Ben Foster playing Pine's younger brother, and actually he's the older brother who's the criminal who knows how to do certain kinds of things. He's not smart enough to plan the crimes the way Chris Pine's character was, but he is he's flamboyant on the screen. He's dangerous. He's funny, and he's a character that you're sympathetic with, despite the fact that he's a horrible human being. And it's because he's somebody's brother, and he's doing this because his brother asked him to. And like I said, it's actually shot in New Mexico. It's supposed to be West Texas, and having now lived in Texas for the last 5 years, I drive through these areas all the time and go, yep, yep, that's what it looks like. Even though it was shot in New Mexico, as
it's a
opposed to
great movie.
previously owned Mexico.
It's a great movie. I'm a big fan of Hell or High Water. Ben Foster is someone who often delivers most acting in a movie, and it's very suited for him in this movie because he's not the lead. But he does a good job of creating a very specific character that I enjoy watching. And you mentioned the other cast. Gil Birmingham just as great
Oh
too
yeah,
with
no,
Jeff
he's
Bridges.
terrific.
He's so good in this movie also.
Well, you got the two parallel stories going on there between Jeff Bridges and Gil Birmingham, and on one side, and Chris Pine and Ben Foster on the other side, and it's interesting to watch their dynamics separately and simultaneously because it's the, you can tell that they piss each other off on a regular basis, but they also have great loyalty to each other, despite the fact that they have completely different kinds of personalities. And I thought that this was really well written that way.
It's I know Taylor Sheridan, he owns Paramount Plus these days with all the shows he has on there. This is peak Sheridan for me between this and Sicario. This is just him like at his best for what he's been able to accomplish.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. And we won't get into all the other shows. I've not dipped into Yellowstone enough to have an opinion about it. I did watch Landman, and it's because it's got Billy Bob Thornton in it, and that's
That's enough for me.
that's worth your time. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, like I said, it's one of the nice things about the theater chain that I now have regular access to is that they do older programming on a regular basis. There's always something coming up. I'm going to get another chance, for instance, this month to see the David Lynch version of Dune on the big screen, which I do repeatedly whenever I get a chance. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to get to catch up with Mulholland Falls because they're doing a Lynch theme this month. And I've never seen Mulholland Falls, and I'm going to see
Drive?
Mulholland Drive. Yes, Mulholland Falls is a Nick Nolte film.
Nick Nolte
Sorry.
movie.
Yeah, I've never seen Mulholland Drive, and this will be a chance to see it on the big screen, so I'm looking forward to that. So, this is Hosanna to the programming at the Draft House.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah, no. We'll be sponsoring some of the upcoming podcasts soon, so we'll get to those in a few minutes. Jeanette, we're back around to you. Have you got a third film that you can tell us you watched lately and want to talk about?
Yeah, I absolutely. One more. Two more on my list, but one more in particular. I also, paired with Elevation, watched The Gorge on Apple Plus with Miles Teller and Sigourney Weaver and Anya Taylor-Joy. Where Elevation was, I feel like The Gorge is slightly better than Elevation. Similar feel, similar vibe. The unexpected, I think a lot of reviews that I saw of this kept mentioning genre bending. I don't know that it's genre bending, but it incorporates a lot of different stuff. And I think that's what you need when you're making a horror or a thriller, is to throw in a bunch of other pieces to it. And the lead up to where things really start to fall apart for the characters in this is really a very charming romance, which I really enjoyed. And then when things start to go crazy, they go crazy. And again, creature design in terms of interesting, nothing we haven't seen before. It's not, it's not giving you any kind of new territory, but it's assembling familiar pieces in kind of a new way, and the actors are capable. When we get to the exit question, I'm more interested in the flip side of the question, which we can talk about later, but because Miles Teller is, I don't care for Miles Teller. So this, for me, was the best use of Miles Teller that I've seen. And Sigourney Weaver, if she has shifted into her, I'm only playing evil genius billionaire people who lurk from the shadows type things from going forward, I'm here for it. She's great at that. So, yeah, this is not what I expected, and I think because I wasn't expecting anything from it, I really enjoyed it.
I really liked everything outside of The Gorge.
There you go.
That first hour, I think, is very strong.
Yeah.
Well, I had no idea this movie existed, so now I've got something else to look into.
Yeah, it's a little long. It's 2 hours, but but yeah, it's a little unexpected, a little bit different, I enjoyed it.
It does have a horror element to it, though.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Very like Scott Derrickson, who did like Sinister and Black Phone and everything. Like it, it's got monsters. Like it's more like a sci-fi movie than it is a horror movie. But
yeah.
Very good. Nicole, you got one more?
Yes, I do. And my last one is one that may have been off the beaten path. It came out in 2020, and I found out about it around that time because I think it was screening on the festival circuit, but I didn't get a chance to watch it. So I recently streamed it on Apple TV via their MHZ channel under a free trial after having trouble trying to watch it on the Sundance Now channel, which, again, that's a side note. We've been talking about accessibility, and I've mentioned this on other Lambcast episodes, but it drives me nuts when people make it hard to watch their films by making it hard to access the films. I thank you, Richard, for finding that short film Mizuko that I was looking for a while. I was able to watch that. But my last one, so this movie is a documentary called Belly of the Beast, which is also up for Movie of the Month. It's about an African-American woman named Kelly Dillon who files a lawsuit against the California correctional facilities after doctors perform an unauthorized hysterectomy on her while she's in prison at like 24 years old, I think. And the lawsuit, in the documentary, her lawsuit opens up ends up opening a can of worms that lead to like a lawyer, a journalist, and some other people spending over 10 years trying to help a bunch of other women and hold California and their prison system accountable for illegally sterilizing women in prison without their knowledge or consent. So apparently since like before, what is that, World War II or whatever, they've been back then it was like, eugenics was happening or what have you. Today, in the current ages, California, there's a particular prison too, I forget the name of it, that they highlight in this film. But today, as we speak, they are sterilizing prisoners when they take them in for like other procedures or operations. So let's say you're a woman, you have like bad cramps or something like that, or like you have other issues. They'll take you in, examine you, and they'll tell you that you might have like fibroids or you might have like cysts. So they're going to check to see. But by the way, would you like to have a hysterectomy in case you have cancer? And these women don't have cancer, and sometimes they're not even asked the question. Anyhow, they're going in for, to be checked for fibroids or yada yada, and then they're coming out having other health problems as the result of being illegally sterilized or having procedures done that are banned. So according to the film, 30 states in the U.S. have passed coercive sterilization laws, and California has sterilized more people than any other state in the country, to the tune of more than 20,000 people. I found the movie really sad to watch, even though they don't make it sad. Like it made me upset watching it, because it's like, it's something that's going on. And being someone with like, I don't know, I have like friends or family who are like in various sectors of like the criminal justice system. It makes me angry anytime I see like people in the government or people in the criminal justice system like abusing people or what have you. The woman that the movie mainly highlights, Kelly, what is her name? Kelly Dillon. She actually, in her 20s or whatever, she was married. Her husband was like beating her up. She was like a domestic violence. She dealt with like domestic violence experiences. So to protect her two sons, who were like 2 and 4, I think, or 4 and 6, during one of the fights with her husband, she ended up killing her husband and then ended up in prison or what have you. Also, the movie found, the lawyers in the movie found out that they were also, they would bring women in and perform pap smears on them, even if they didn't need a pap smear. So let's say you were going in for back pain, or like you have a headache, they would deliberately like perform like male doctors or what have you would perform pap smears like on them. Anyhow, I don't want to get too long in the tooth covering this movie, but that was the most recent movie I watched. I saw Love Hurts in the theatrical setting. I saw Captain America Brave New World at the theater, but I streamed Belly of the Beast. And so, yeah, that was the most recent movie that I watched.
Well, Well, if it doesn't win Movie of the Month, you got a chance to speak about it and tell us a little bit about why it's important for you to see it and why we should be seeing it as well. So I appreciate that. Yeah, it's always frustrating when there's abuse by the system, so to speak, against people, and medical professionals all over the place are guilty of that, as well as the criminal justice system. Famously, we had a doctor at USC who was guilty of, sexual atrocities, so to speak. He was like the official gynecologist at the university health system, and for 20 years, and there was all kinds of abuse that went on there. So it's not just in prison systems, it's in other places as well. This kind of abuse does occur, and it's nice to have a spotlight shined on those things.
Really enjoying the uplifting, family-friendly portion of the show we're having right now.
Yeah, well, it's cheerful time. That's okay.
We went from penises to
animated penises.
Yeah.
Aaron, do you have any more animated penises in your back pocket?
Back pocket? No. The next film I can do this all day, by
Yeah,
the way.
there
So
you
as
go.
long as you guys want to keep going, I'll keep going. But
Right, you keep them in the front pocket.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Exactly. The next film I have, I watched just because I felt like it. That's really the only justification I have. I was like, hey, that's on Blu-ray now. I'll get that. And I did, and I watched it. It is from 2005. It is The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada. It is the directorial debut of Tommy Lee Jones. It's written by Guillermo Arriaga, who co-wrote Amoros Perros and 21 Grams with Alejandro Inarritu. The film is kind of a neo-Western drama would be the best way to describe it. It focuses on Tommy Lee Jones as a ranch foreman, Pete Perkins, great name, who his best friend, Melquiades Estrada, was killed by a border patrol agent played by Barry Pepper for unfair reasons.
Of course, it was played by Barry Pepper.
Yeah, it's a very Barry Pepper role. A lot of pepper on it. Tom, because the police because they live in Texas, he's a illegal immigrant. The sheriff's office does not care about this death. They barely even give him a burial, which upsets Tommy Lee Jones. So Tommy Lee Jones takes things into his own hands, and the majority of the film focuses on him kidnapping Barry Pepper, taking the body of Melquiades Estrada, and them journeying across the border into Mexico so they can bury the body properly. The film has a lot of flashback use, so you can get to know Jones and Melquiades Estrada. I like saying his whole name. So you get to understand that relationship or what have you. It's for being a film written by Arriaga. If you're familiar with Amoros Perros or 21 Grams, you know that nonlinear structure is kind of it's a way they function in those films. So it's not unfamiliar to see it handled here this way. But yeah, Barry Pepper, Tommy Lee Jones. It also has Dwight Yoakam plays the sheriff in the town. January Jones plays Barry Pepper's wife. Melissa Leo plays a waitress who is married but having an affair with both Dwight Yoakam's character and Tommy Lee Jones. Matter of interest. Yeah. And so the film, it's kind of measured in its pacing, like being a neo-Western no less. It's very kind of focused in on these characters and kind of getting you to adjust to what this journey is going to be and what have you. But there's still kind of an on-the-run element to it, obviously, because this man has kidnapped somebody and is, trying to get across the border. So there's not necessarily a ticking clock, but there's certainly an urgency to the film as far as, if Jones and Pepper are going to make it to where they need to go and if they're able to evade capture and what have you. But I was a huge fan of this film when it came out. It didn't get too much love on a awards level, but certainly it had Independent Spirit Award nominations. It was I think it won at Cannes for at least a couple things, the Cannes Film Festival, and it was just generally well received at the time. And Tommy Lee Jones, he's only made a couple movies. He's made The Hideaway, made The Homesman, over a decade later with Hilary Swank. But he hasn't done much as a filmmaker. But from what I could see just from this movie, and even The Homesman for that matter, he's a good director. For all the grumpiness he brings to what seems like life, He seems to know what he's doing behind the camera, which I very much appreciate, and I really like this film. And just watching it now and looking at how immigration is a very big deal in the U.S. currently. I say that like I'm not in the U.S. It's a very big deal in this country I live in currently. I wouldn't be surprised if you re-released this movie today, or just made the same story with like a slightly updated cast, but still had Tommy Lee Jones, because of course you need to. I feel like you could guarantee it have a lot more attention in an Oscar capacity as far as the relevance of the story material and what have you. But it's just a really good movie. The Three Barrels of Melquiades Estrada. I really like it.
What's the year on that again?
2005.
Okay. It does sound like it sounds like it should have been handed a pile of awards. It sounds tailor-made for awards, and it also sounds like Tommy Lee Jones. He's kind of shifted into semi-retirement. I like the idea of a dude who's, I'm gonna make stuff if it shoots in my backyard.
Yeah, pretty much.
What did I just see him? I saw an ad for a movie that he's in with 2 or 3 other old guys.
I mean, he's done a few. He's done a few of those movies.
It's one of those, and I think Morgan Freeman and I'm gonna have to look, because it's.
So I'm gonna make a movie
month.
if it shoots in my backyard. It includes all my friends.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, I know what you're talking about, Richard. I'll get back to that in a second. There was a movie he was in 2 years ago called The Burial with Jamie Foxx that I really liked. Actually, I thought he was really good in it. But the movie you're thinking of is called The Comeback Trail.
That sounds right.
It has him and De Niro and Freeman, and this was like, it got like, because it was made in like 2020, but it got whatever, like either COVID or whatever happened, like the movie just got like blocked for like years. And it just like, it finally hit like on VOD unceremoniously. So it's like, it just kind of dropped out of nowhere, essentially.
Okay, that would explain it. Cause not to be disparaging of anybody, but in the trailer, I thought Morgan Freeman looked a lot better than the last time I saw him.
Yeah, because it's 5 years old.
Exactly. That's it. So there's an explanation for it. Well, my last film is a result of, a sad event that happened this last week. Gene Hackman and his wife passed away. We're not sure exactly when. Apparently, they were dead for a while before their bodies were discovered. He was 95 years old. And as anybody who has listened to me talk about it in the past, Gene Hackman was my favorite actor for years and years. When he stopped acting back in 2004, my cinema world became a lot less bright for a long time. And it's tough when you lose somebody that is a big part of your life, even though you never met them. And Gene Hackman was always a big part of my life as I was growing up, and I admired his work. So I thought I would dive into some Hackman films that I know and love, but I also picked one that I've seen. I actually own a Laserdisc version of this. I haven't watched it for 20 years. The Birdcage, which he's a co-star in the film with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane.
Oh, that's right.
This is not a good movie.
What?
It is not a good movie.
Phantom of the Opera says what? Hold on.
It has some charm to it, but it is dependent on a premise that, look, it's a farce, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
But it's a farce that requires us to indulge the most selfish characters in the world, the 2 kids, and then turn around and see them supposedly redeem themselves at the end, and it just doesn't work. It's silly, the setup. Once we're in the farce, it's entertaining. So, and that, I think, is the reason that the movie works. So the first 40 minutes of the movie, I'm watching this going, these are horrible people treating their parents in the most disgusting ways. Why are they asking this? If they really loved them, they wouldn't be this way. But we're supposed to forgive that, and I'm willing to, go away. But it's not a good movie. However, Gene Hackman was fine. He was very entertaining, and he doesn't look bad in a dress and a wig.
Yeah, so Richard wants to go out on a down note, apparently, by just saying absolute falsities. I get it. That's fine.
Would you like to defend this film? I know it's based on.
There's no defending I have to do. The movie's hysterical. I'm not in the minority on that whatsoever. I'm not the biggest fan of The Birdcage. I know there's plenty of people that love The Birdcage more than I do. I think it's great, but like, there's not much defending on my part. It's like, yeah, okay.
I remember it being funny, but I also remember, Richard, what you're saying. Like, yeah, those kids, the farce part of it is funny, but it should never have gotten that far.
Yeah.
Like, I agree with what you're saying. I also haven't seen it since it came out. I'm wondering if it would hold up or if it would feel, as the kids say, cringe now, thematically.
Yeah, there are probably a few cringe
very...
moments, things that people would
curious.
have trouble with, and it feels very much, like a 90s film. And I know it's based on the very successful French movie, and then there was also a sequel to the French movie. I think I saw the original French film whenever it was back in the 80s on a cable TV movie program that I watched, that I subscribed to at the time, but I have very little memory of it. And the Birdcage I remembered a lot better, and the actors are all doing a good job. The premise is just
you're
problematic.
Putting so much emphasis on these kids, and these kids, like, I can barely, like, I've seen it recently, and I can barely think about these kids when you have Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, Gene Hackman, Diane Dice being incredible in the movie.
Yeah. Christine Baranski is, who shows up, and she's great, but it's basically she's a character who has ignored the existence of her son for 20 plus years, and you're going, this seems strange that. It's like I said, the setup of the farce is the problem. The farce itself is great. It's very entertaining and funny. I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm just saying that it requires us to slog through some hard to swallow kind of stuff at the beginning. And
you're saying slog through it. It just that's like if you only focused on just the kids for the first, and you're saying 40 minutes. That seems like a stretch, but you're saying you only focus on just the kids, when it's like the other side of that is Robin Williams and Nathan Lane being hysterical.
Yeah, and they're funny,
I like Gene Hackman. I've never seen this movie. I don't consider myself very young. I do use the term cringe, so I don't but I don't know if I want to see Gene Hackman in a dress.
It's just the punchline of the last 3 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
No.
It makes sense in the plot.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mark.
Yeah, it's.
You can also just rewatch Enemy of the State, which I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Exactly the same movie.
Yes, exactly.
What's his name?
The kids in that one are less obnoxious.
Smart or incredibly stupid.
A little more Barry Pepper for you, some Scotty Conn, Seth Green, I think. Like, there's a lot happening in that movie.
Well, there's a thousand other, well, maybe not 1,000, but many, many other Gene Hackman films that are probably a better choice to watch in memory of his life, and I'm going to probably do that over the next week or so, catch up with a lot of them. There are a couple that I've missed over the years. I forget the one that he made with Dan Aykroyd. I'm sure it's something that
Loose Cannons?
Yes, there you go. I don't need to watch that. But I should probably catch up with it eventually, because I am kind of a completist on those things. The one film I didn't see yet this week, but I would recommend as a Hackman film that is not often talked about, is Scarecrow, which is a terrific
great
movie.
Yeah, love Scarecrow.
So if you can find that, it's not as well known as some of the other films that he's made, but it's a very great acting piece for him and Pacino.
You know that, like, Jeanette, did you watch Friends? Are you a Friends fan?
No, I watched Living Single.
Thank you. Jesus Christ. That invalidates what I needed to say, but that makes me happier to hear that, because I well, to listeners that know Friends, and there's a whole big thing in that show where, like, Matt LeBlanc puts on, like, all of Chandler's clothes. Scarecrow is basically Gene Hackman wearing all of his clothes all of the time. He wears layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of clothing, and it's to the point where Al Pacino comments on it at one point, and it cracked me up, because it's like, Jesus, he's still taking off clothes? It's ridiculous.
I will say, it's always when we lose, and Gene Hackman is a dude who, it's funny, I was on the Forgotten Film cast last night, and we talked briefly about this, but Gene Hackman is a guy who, when he decided to retire, retired, right? That was it.
Yeah,
moving. Take my wife, that's it. You're not going to hear from me anymore. And you got to respect that. Like, the man achieved what he wanted to achieve, and then enjoyed his later years in peace and quiet, which is kind of impressive. But when an actor like this, with a breadth of work like he had, who really hasn't had anything in the last, 20 years or so, give or take, when they pass, as sad as it is, as tragic as it is, there is this strange benefit to that everyone starts talking about all the movies they liked that this actor had done, and now this whole new generation of movie fans will get to see a lot of this work based on recommendations from other people that maybe they hadn't encountered previously. And I think something like that is a blessing to take away with this situation, where like Gene Hackman was not really on people's minds for the last few years, but there's a lot of new film buffs out there who now are going to get to see movies like this and enjoy them over and over again. So I think that's as a button on this discussion.
I'm sure there's a name for this effect that happens all the time when people pass. I know that the album sales go up for musicians when their tragedy comes finally, and I'm sure that there's demand for movies the same way. So there's probably an effect word for it. It's not the Mandela effect, but something like that.
Something like that.
It's
I just hope it extends to, like you're saying, Jeanette, to the rest of his movies and not just the huge hits. As much as I like Crimson Tide or Quick and the Dead or what have you. I mean, The Conversation I think is one of the best performances ever in a film. So it's like, let's see. I hope that they reach back to something like Scarecrow or Night Moves or what have you, and like really see just how broad his work was as far as what he was able to accomplish in his career.
It would also be interesting with someone in like nowadays who's only familiar with, let's say, the last couple of Lex Luthors. Maybe go back and watch Superman and be like, what the hell?
Good way to put it. And there's some far stuff that works there.
He's a great Lex Luthor. I love his Lex Luthor.
All right, folks. Well, that's been our show this week. We're going to take a quick break to hear from some fellow Lamb Podcasting Network show, and then we'll be back with our exit question of the week.
Hello, I am Aaron Neuwirth. I am a film critic and the editor-in-chief at We Live Entertainment. I host the podcast Out Now with Aaron and Abe, and I am a big Godzilla fan.
Hi, my name is Terrence Johnson. I am a film critic as well at Neuwirth.net, and I have seen some Godzilla movies.
And together, we've decided we're starting a podcast called Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla. It's going to be a bi-weekly podcast, as in twice a month.
Yes.
Where Terrence and I will go over the entire Godzilla franchise.
Yeah. This is what do they call these things? Labors of love.
Yeah, exactly. Labors of love.
We're back, and it's time for the exit question of the week, and it is coincidental that the exit question involves our favorite performers on the screen. We were just talking about Gene Hackman, and I mentioned that Gene Hackman was my favorite actor. But for years, I have watched movies since Gene Hackman, and I have replaced him as my favorite working actor, so to speak. And that's kind of what our question of the week is. Who is your favorite working actor? Somebody who will bring you to a movie simply because they're in it. And like I said, I've got an answer that I'll give in a minute, and I don't think anybody will be surprised with it. I think I've mentioned it before, but let's see if some of our other guests can surprise us. Nicole, have you got an actor or actress that usually guarantees you in a seat in the theater?
I have sorta. So I have two actors that I am most likely that will most likely take me to the theater. This question was hard because we have to pick a working actor.
Yeah, working actor, not somebody who's retired for 20 years. Yes.
And so it's like, damn, Bruce, why'd you have to be sick? So I went with, I also like a lot of actors. And so I would go to the theater to see several actors and actresses. So I narrowed it down to men who I have the hots for. And
this is sound science. I'm on board.
That's right.
And so David Kaluuya and Jason Momoa could get me to a theater. Mainly because, I like David Kaluuya as an actor as well, but, if he wants to hang out for drinks, like, I'm up for that as well. And then Jason Momoa, or is it Momoa?
Momoa.
I would totally climb that mountain. So, whatever. Although I haven't seen Aquaman, but I like him in a lot of other movies.
Don't. If you want to maintain that, don't.
All right, cool, okay. Cool.
Although, to be fair, Aquaman is just him being him for 2 hours, both of them. So, maybe, add it.
The movies are a little over the top. Well, let me rephrase it. They're completely over the top, but he's fun.
He's fun in them.
Oh, yeah, the problem with Aquaman is it's over the top. How dare they? It should be more grounded.
That's it. We should have more realistic presentation of the King of Atlantis. Well, those are good choices, and I understand your reasoning completely. I'm sure that there are people out there who have that as their primary motivation for seeing a film. They just like what they're seeing. Mm-hmm. Aaron, you got somebody you like who you see?
This question is terrible. I hate it because how do I narrow down something that I'll do on a weekly basis as far as like seeing movies, because I'm interested in the people that I see. Is there like one specific actor anytime that I go to, like, definitely, like, no, there's not. I don't have an answer in that way. So I'm going to go with a new actor that I think has the potential to become just someone that I'm just constantly championing because I'm just very tuned into what he's doing here. I'm going with an actor named Aaron Pierre, who appeared in Rebel Ridge last year, a film that I was in my top 10. I think it's awesome, the Jeremy Saulnier film that's on Netflix now. First off, great name, Aaron Pierre. He's about as handsome as I am, so he has that going for him as well. I mean, he's only done like so many things. Rebel Ridge is like a huge like push for him right there. He's going to be in this Green Lantern show that's coming to Max. He was in the Underground Railroad series on Prime. He was in Old, aka M. Night Shyamalan's Magic Beach as Mid-Sized Sedan. And just, only a few roles. But like just watching him
He's
command.
He's shockingly beautiful.
He is. He's a very beautiful man. Yes. He has piercing
like we said,
blue eyes.
just like Aaron.
Yeah, exactly. About as handsome as I am.
You did say that, yes. I heard you say it, yeah.
But Rebel Ridge, I was so like in tune with that performance. It's such a good like call your shot kind of movie star performance that I really want to. It is Mufasa in the animated live action animated Lion King prequel that just came out. But I want to see this guy succeed. I think he has so much potential to become like a major movie star at a time when we just don't frankly have many movie stars anymore, like in the traditional sense. So like I'm going with Aaron Pierre because I want to see him become this guy that people just want to see because his name's attached to the movie.
That's a good answer.
Thank you.
I think that's a reasonable twist on the question, so I'll allow it. Jeanette, how about you?
Yeah, I want to second the fact that this question is way too hard. And what I meant earlier is I would love the flip side of this. Is there an actor who, if they're in something, you will not see it? Is there someone who is absolutely a reason you will not go to the theater? I feel like I operate in waves if we're trying to answer the correct question. I think that the answer to this question could change certainly from year to year, certainly from week to week, depending on what's out. And I try to, when I go to see movies, use it's either the cast, the director, the story, or like the concept, all of that. So when you combine those things together, that what makes like, yeah, I'm going to see this. For me, I've had like a Ewan McGregor phase. I've had a Colin Farrell phase. I've had a Wesley Snipes phase. But all of these, they'll be like a movie where you're like, I guess I'm out of that phase. Don't need that anymore. So right now, it's so hard to answer this. I think Nicole's answer is good. Jason Momoa has certainly, at least he's going to be big and fun and hot. Kevin Hart, I feel like, is a one-note dude, but if you enjoy that one note, it's always going to deliver. So I think
a little smaller than Jason Momoa.
A little smaller, but there's going to be some chuckles in there. So I think it's super hard to answer this, but that would be my answer right now.
Oh, Hart? That's your answer?
Yeah.
All right.
Woo, Colin. Jeanette, I forgot about Colin. I had a Colin phase too, girl. Man.
And was
That's
there a
all I
movie?
got.
Was there a movie where you were like, I'm done with this now? Because I feel like somewhere between A Home at the End of the World and the Miami Vice movie.
Oh, I need to see the Home at the End of the
Oh,
World.
yeah, the world
I think,
reference.
I think I just kind of tolerated him with Miami Vice because I was just like, oh, I'll just like this is just eye candy. Like I'll just look at him. Don't think. Like just don't think.
Speaking of eye candy, Penguin, right? Penguin?
I mean, there's so many questions. Why not just hire Richard Kind if you're going to be made up to look like Richard Kind? Also,
Just Colin Farrell. Did you see the performance?
Thank you, Jeanette. That's the best laugh I'm going to have today.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I thought about restoring my King Dong series on my blog, on the Mail at Post blog. I might have to do that.
I'm
Where
sorry, what's that series called?
King Dong.
King Dong.
She said what she said.
Okay,
used to
make sure I
have
heard that properly.
I had a series called King Dong on the Mad Lab Post. Like there are posts where I would just come up with like ridiculous like poems based on, I would pick an actor who was cute or sexy or whatever, and my friend Shelby on Twitter, at Shelby on Twitter, she would pick an actor that she thought was sexy or hot or cute. Whether or not I agree, I would write like a silly poem about that actor and focus on that actor for the month. So I would have the poem one week, and then another week I would write about like quotes that resonate and life lessons that we could learn from them, whether from their perspective on life or their career in movies or what have you. So, Johnny Depp was a King Dong, for example, one year, and he had a whole month to himself where I wrote multiple posts focused on Johnny Depp because he was the King Dong. In a nutshell. No pun intended.
Pun. I like that. I will say that along with the Aaron Pierre line, I feel like Aldous Hodge is another one who's right on the edge of someone hand him the correct project. The Alex Cross show, yes, but somewhere out there's a movie that he needs. And man, if they decide to recast T'Challa at any point, he's right there. But Aldous Hodge is right on the edge of that too.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as I keep waiting to see him in something that I really like. I like him and I like him in things, but like I've yet to see like this is his deal. This is the thing that he'd be great in.
Jeanette, for return on investment, I really do like your choice of Kevin Hart because, like you said, you can at least expect that one note, and so going in, I can totally see that. Like, if I'm standing at the counter, Richard, at the theater looking for a movie to pick because I didn't buy a ticket in advance. If there aren't any films that I'm itching to watch and there's a Kevin Hart film, I would most likely go with that because I do know I'm going to laugh. He's going to be, silly. He's going to do he's going to be Kevin Hart.
Oh, look,
Yes.
the line is sitting right there for me. I can't resist it anymore. A little heart goes a long way.
Oh boy.
He's fine.
Cliff Curtis instead. Also, Cliff Curtis I might put on that list.
Hey, there you go. I like Cliff Curtis. I don't know that I'd see a movie that he's in, but I see a lot of movies that he's in.
There you go.
That's a different one. Well, I was stimulated to ask this question, not by any of you folks, unfortunately. This is one of those things that's become an issue at our house. My daughter has got a fascination right now with an actor, and I'm seeing way more movies that he's in than I really care to see. He's not somebody that I'm entranced with, but she's all over Bill Skarsgård. And
oh no!
And I've had to see The Crow and Boy Kills World, hey, this is my life.
How was Boy
I
Kills World?
it
I think
was
the accent's good in it.
it's okay. It's just, but there's nothing. It's a little bit like Love Hurts. There's a lot of action without necessarily much payoff. It just doesn't feel like there's anything that it was necessary. But like I said, so I'm being driven a little bit to. We support each other. She sees crap that I want to see. I see crap that she wants to see.
What'd you think of Nosferatu?
I like Nosferatu quite a bit. She did not care for it very. She was okay with it.
Because she couldn't see Bill Skarsgård. She only saw
That's it.
And his penis.
That's the only reason that she liked it, because she is not a Robert Eggers fan at all. And but since we're talking about people that we are not fans of, what's his name? Osgood Perkins has rapidly lost any interest for me whatsoever. But let's not go there.
Love Osgood Perkins. I'll see all his movies.
Well, I've seen the two that people have talked about in the last year, and neither of them is worth the time of day to spend on them.
Fun movies.
Yeah, I wish they were.
I feel like, Richard, you could have
Those two movies are less the runtime than Phantom of the Opera, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
and I'd watch Phantom of the Opera twice again rather than watching either of those movies again. Oh. Anyway, but I was stimulated to ask the question because of what's going on in the house, and I have frequently been accused of having a man crush on Paul Rudd because I've enjoyed him in so many
Fair.
things.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, he's great.
Right?
Role Models is one of my favorite films of the 2000s, not only because it features Paul Rudd, but of course it features Kiss. So that's one of those things that gets me going. But the actor that I've got to talk myself out of doing this. I don't really want to fly to New York. I don't want to spend $1,000 on a ticket, but I may end up doing it so I could see Denzel Washington on stage doing Othello.
Yeah,
well.
I heard good things
No complaints
about
here.
It'd be worth it, right? It
Yeah.
would be worth it because then you'd be able to say that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we are, on the brink of doing that. Denzel Washington, since Gene Hackman retired, has been my favorite working actor. I think I've seen 89% of the films that he's made. There are a couple that probably slipped under the radar for me. But
So you haven't watched Heart Condition yet?
nope, I haven't seen Heart Condition. And what was the one where he's the lawyer? He got nominated for an Academy Award for it.
Philadelphia.
No,
Yeah.
no. This is recent, like 5 years ago.
Oh, Roman J. is Garage
Yeah,
Fire?
there. That's one that I didn't catch up on. But almost everything else I've seen, and I like the films that he's directed quite well as also.
Yeah.
He's great, and
Also, he's great in Shakespeare. The Much Ado About Nothing, the
Yes,
Kenneth Branagh one. Like,
it's
come
been
on.
a long time since I saw that, but it's excellent. And another
The
one.
Coen's Macbeth movie I loved.
I haven't seen that one. Is that worth my effort?
I love his take on Macbeth. I think it's fantastic.
Good deal. Yeah, like I said, 90 or 89% of what he's made I've seen, but there are always a few things that skip out. I'm a little concerned because he's getting a little older as well. I hope that he doesn't decide that he's going to exit the stage anytime soon.
He's making 2 more Equalizer movies.
I was just going to say, I have no problem with
Is
the
one of them
Equalizer
going to
movies.
have Queen Latifah in it? Let's get a crossover. That's
Is
what
one
we
of them
want.
going to be good? That's another question I like to ask, but I mean, that's a different story.
Aaron, is it you who's sick of the Equalizer movies? I heard somebody
I don't
talking
like
about
any
it
of
not
these
too long.
Equalizer movies.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that he can fund these August Wilson plays because of those movies. That's great for him.
Okay.
You know, Richard, I'm glad that you picked Denzel because he was going to be. I thought about picking him since Bruce Willis isn't, making movies anymore, and that Bruce would be my my pick. But you said current, and I went. They might think I'm being too easy pitching him, but I really like Denzel. Is someone that I would. I don't even care if the movie isn't. If the movie is silly or if it's just not a good movie. If he's in it, I'm going to want to watch it. I don't even care what it is. Now, I do have exceptions there, and thankfully he maintains his dignity in Hollywood as an actor. He doesn't do things that he doesn't want to do. But if for some odd reason in another life, if he developed a drug habit and changed agents or something and started doing some crazy things that I thought would be damaging not only to his image but the image of other people, I would then I would have to make some difficult decisions.
The multiverse version of Denzel that you have is fascinating.
Fortunately, he's 70 years old and has a mind about him. He's fine.
Yeah, he's okay.
This.
He's good.
So I like your pick, Richard.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad, and I'm sure that it makes a big difference to him that somebody's out there paying for all those Equalizer movies so he can make the August Wilson films too. And I'm paying for both, so I feel good about it.
Paul Rudd's also a good choice because you're going to get a lot of different genres there.
Yes.
The White Denzel, some call him. Nobody else.
There you go. Absolutely. And
who is it that does that?
Oh my God.
All right, folks. Well, I think we've had a good time this week. I'm glad that everybody saw something that they were happy to talk about. Unfortunately, we had a few things that we were also sad to talk about, but that's the way it goes sometimes when you are a movie fan. I want to thank everybody for joining us this week, and I want to give you a chance to promote things that you might want us to turn our eyes or ears to. Nicole, have you got anything in particular that we could look for online?
Yes, the movie of the month poll.
Okay.
If you're listening, vote for Belly of the Beast. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeanette, how about you?
Well, I'm going to preemptively say vote for the FX franchise for the April franchise of the month special. And you can't find me on Instagram. My blog has it's paused. I haven't been on here for a while. I kind of pulled back for a bit, just kind of recenter in terms of all stuff. So but you can. I'm trying to keep movie reviews to like 1 or 2 sentences out there on the old Instagram, so you can find me there.
Instagram. That's what I need to do. Follow you on Instagram. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I can find you.
JY Ward, I believe.
I will do so.
Yeah.
That's okay. You guys don't have to have a lot to promote because Aaron has everything to promote.
Wait, so to be clear, Jeanette, you have FX, the franchise? That's your franchise pick?
That's all right. FX1 and FX2. You
FX2
only have to have 2 to be a franchise.
FX2, The Deadly Art of Illusion, of course.
That's it.
FX2:
Yes.
The Deadly Art of Illusion.
Oh, you don't need to tell me. Our podcast is full of punctuation, pronunciation. That's a big deal for us. I have things to promote. I'll keep it short because I want to get to one main thing. But everything I do can be found on dakotazeek.substack.com on my movie reviews, podcast episodes, what have you. Everything can be on there. I'm on all the socials at Aaron's PS4. I host 2 podcasts. One is Out Now with Aaron and Abe. It's a weekly review show. My friend Abe and I talk about the weekly movie releases, and we have other fun bonus episodes as well. But the main thing I want to promote is our new podcast, myself and my film critic friend Terrence Johnson. We are both black film critics, and we are hosting a new podcast called Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla, where every 2 weeks we will be talking about a film in the Godzilla franchise, starting in chronological order. We just recorded our first episode literally yesterday. We watched the movie, then we sat right down and talked all about it. And we are having so much fun putting this thing together. 2 black guys talk Godzilla. We're at all the socials, at BLK Godzilla Talk on Twitter and Blue Sky, and at 2 Guys Talk Godzilla on Facebook and Instagram. Follow it, subscribe to our show, have a good time. We're having a good time.
I love this so much. I'm all in on this.
Thank you.
Happy Black History Month. I don't know if you all heard, we're taking it all the way through the year. So all year is Black History Month.
Oh, I like your idea, Jeanette. I like your idea. As someone who often works in an elementary school, I appreciate that because one of the reading class is reading about the Holocaust this month, which I found interesting. So yeah.
Well, I found the image for your website, and I used it in the illustrated podcast, Aaron. So
great.
I'm looking forward to having the promo. Hopefully for this show. We'll see how it goes. We'll retrofit it in.
Can I ask Aaron, how many movies is this going to include? How many Godzilla movies are out there? Do you have the number handy?
Well, here's the thing. There are 38 Godzilla films currently, but we're also including the greater Godzilla universe. So there's things like Mothra and Rodan and War of the Gargantuas that are all within the universe of Godzilla. So there will be more than just the 38 movies we'll be discussing over the time.
Spectacular.
How frequently is this going to drop?
This is this podcast because we're both too busy to be like, let's do this every week. We're doing it every 2 weeks. We're doing an episode of Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla.
Yeah, and I appreciate how busy you are because you are on this show for the second week in a row, and you're a busy guy. I appreciate you taking time for us.
It worked out. I'm happy to be on here when it works out.
Excellent, excellent. On my site, as usual, I just have reviews of the things that I see in a theater, and I've already mentioned a couple of them. I do have one film that I still need to catch up on. I actually didn't review this film when it came out. It came out the year I started blogging, before I started reviewing films on a regular basis, but the last film I saw in the theater was The Social Network. So I'm looking forward to writing about that this week and including a post on that. And, of course, the Lambcast. We have the podcast up every week. Most of the time, we've had to take a couple of weeks off here and there. Currently, we have a science fiction draft pre-1968. We had 4 guests on competing to create the best slate of science fiction films from before 1968. And Aaron did his best to come up with it, and he thinks Godzilla is going to carry him over the line, and I'm sure it probably will because he's got a lot of Godzilla fans out there. But I think if you honestly review all of the films there, you'll see that there are a couple of other slates that are pretty appealing. I won't mention which ones. Yes, I will. Vote for my slate.
David's pretty great. I like David. David's is great. I watched The Day the Earth Caught on Fire.
How was it?
Because it's great. It's really good. I really liked it a lot.
Excellent. I'm going to catch up with a whole bunch of those things. I'm not sure I'll ever catch up with the Daleks movie, but we'll see. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this week. And everybody who's listening, keep watching something that's worth talking about. Bye.
You've been listening to the Lambcast. If you have an idea for a show or would like to join us on the Lambcast, contact us at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Find us on Facebook, just search for Lambcast, or on X, formerly Twitter, at Lambcast. And you can find us on YouTube as well. The Lamb site can be found at largeassmovieblogs.com. We'd also love it if you would leave a review on iTunes.
Ha 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 ha